So things are going to be a little different this time, clearly. I've had a couple of questions about glazing putty and acetone. So I figured I will go over everything and explain the process and why, and then we'll just finish just a couple of helmets. Don't wear anything you care about, because this is going to be messy. You're going to get lots of sloppies everywhere. Again, it's Acetone and Glazing Putty. This is a standard Bondo brand, but any glazing or spot putty will work. I'll put a link in the doobly for this. Probably not this. Maybe the mixing cups, you know, everything. PPE is important. Acetone is toxic. Make sure you wear proper protection. There is no right way to do this as far as the ratios go. I found that the thinner you make your mixture, the better everything works, because the acetone's going to want to leach into the thin points, so surface tension will stop it from, because, you know, 3D prints have rounded edges everywhere, that this evens it out. So I found the thinner it is, I'd rather do 10 real thin coats than 3 thick coats.
It's about a shot glass worth?
Yeah, about that much. Right? It's not too terribly much. It's a decent amount. Way more acetone. I hate this container. It does not pour well. I've also put down plastic to try and protect everything. So that's about what I do.
Okay.
We'll probably end up doing 3 or 4 of these. We'll have to mix as we go.
And I know we're not there yet, but I don't like the smell of acetone.
Acetone is toxic. So now we just coat everything. Where the support material was, put straight Bondo, or straight glazing putty. So just to fill in the little gaps.
Does this eat at foam brushes? Can you use foam brushes?
The problem with foam brushes is it absorbs too much, so you can't, it just turns it to a rock. Foam brushes don't work as well. Unless you have a gluing surface. I don't, so just cover everything.
What do you mean by gluing surface?
This needs to glue onto a thing.
Okay.
So I want to keep that as little as possible.
Does it matter if you're wearing against the grain or with the grain?
It doesn't really. It'll seep its way in.
I was worried about brushing it out with the grain.
No, you don't have to worry about brushing it out at all. I have to subtitle this one.
I speak with a respirator half the day. I'm sure people will understand this.
Alright.
It's a good thing you have more to work on than me.
Well, that's why I picked out 3. And it's going to look like you're not doing anything. And that's okay. After the 4th coat, you're going to be like, oh, I guess I am.
And does it dry fast enough? You just go around in circles?
Your top is already dry.
So it's like working in the round and crocheting.
Exactly. That is probably a good analogy. So my goal with this video is to have at least mine 100% done by the end of it. At the very least primed. You should probably get yours to that stage too. You know what? One second. I'm going with 2 inches.
I'm going to change up too. I know I pre-sanded this. Is it important to pre-sand it, or did it matter?
I lightly sand mine only because of my 3D printer is a little rough. But I've had ones I actually actively compared pre-sanding and not sanding at all, and I didn't see a difference.
Okay.
I pre-sand just to get all the wispies off.
I pre-sanded because I was going to go the hard way on this.
Sanchez deserves the heart.
Since I have actual just Bondo on here, will that rehydrate it in any way, or is it okay?
Maybe a little bit, but not enough that I would really worry about it.
Okay.
Because the acetone's going to flash off so fast that it won't have time to really mess with it.
Okay.
It may smooth it out if anything.
Well, make sure you don't have to stay clear of it.
Nope.
Ah, you can tell I don't have a video to finish.
Yeah, well. No, you can tell that you haven't done this a couple of times. I have. Yeah, it's like you're not going to be a master at this by the time we're done.
Can't fit that many more helmets in the living room. I think Sanchez here might be my last bucketed costume.
Yeah?
Oh, okay,
First
maybe
bucketed
not.
costume?
I have a pilot.
Oh, real bucket.
I have a Tusken Raider.
That's true, you do have that.
Didn't have to do this to it though. If you don't have an aversion to having to wear a respirator, and since I do all day long at work, this is way easier than sanding on my wrists.
It is. No, this is actually a considerably faster process. I was watching, what was his name, Derek from Van Oaks Props. He was doing an R2 bucket. And he just casually did this thing, and I'm like, that's interesting. And I tried it, and it worked horrible. And I tried it again with more acetone, and I was like, oh, now I get it. Completely changed the way I do printing, or I do props. It's amazing what the one offhanded comment can do to an entire perspective.
You try and get it completely smooth, or do you at least leave
Nope.
some of it to the
Just
filler primer?
Just leave it be. The more coats you put on, the better everything just gets. The first time I've ever done 3 at once.
It's still a tight seal. I just needed to loosen its pressure on my
I
neck.
get it.
If I'd been smart, I'd have just gone and gotten mine.
Yeah. Don't forget to periodically mix, because some of it may settle.
You can see that. Any advice for getting into all of these little eyelets for the Trooper?
Just drip it in.
Okay.
The nice thing about this is it will dry. Super thin coat. So you're going to keep most of your detail.
And if not, we're going to have to sand it anyways. trying to get over that artist, make sure the paint's loose on the brush and only dipped in a little.
And you just gotta slap it on and move it all over. It's gotta be everywhere. Luckily we're doing a bunch of coats, so if you miss a spot, you get it next time. It's gonna be weird to edit. I planned on time-lapsing a good chunk of this. But every time either of us talk, I'm gonna slow it down to, because you're asking actual good questions.
Well, I'm trying to make sure I do this right.
Which is the exact reason I want to do this.
I want to be Sanchez. I think that I did not sand this well enough, and this was in the early prints from way back in the day, since this is over 1.5 years old. I'm gonna have to use Bondo on this back area.
Okay. That is a thing that does happen.
This is the back end overhang, and I just have all kinds of little spurly bits.
Yeah. Probably should have been printed differently. That was a while ago.
I had other costumes to finish. I wasn't ready for this one yet. It should be explained that I do everything in at least a third speed of you.
Nah. You do just as well as I do.
Yeah, I know, but I do it a lot slower. And I'm not saying that's worse, but I do tend to work a lot slower. Can you do this all in one sitting, or is there any time that you have to let it dry and go back to it, or can you just keep doing this until you're done? You can just keep doing this till you're done.
I planned on, like I said, I planned on doing at least 5 coats tonight. I'm on coat 2. If I could get 10, I would. But I think you're going to be done before then.
Done as in done with my helmet, or done as in I can't stand looking at this color red anymore?
Is there a difference?
So since the next step is painting, no.
I almost made my Mandalorian this color because I like it so much.
So is there an illusion level of smooth? Once it looks smooth, how long do you keep going? Or do you just have a minimum number of levels you tend to do?
It's all personal choice, or personal taste. I go until it can't be bothered. I go until the top is smooth, because the top's going to be the most noticeable, where the higher levels are because of the rings.
Alright, so I think it's time for me to make new glue. I'll try and squeeze from the bottom this time. If it's acetone, it'll just dry as I dump it all over the floor, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I'd be done, but I might have moved to the little desk in the garage.
You can move a little desk if you want.
I might. Not done hanging out with you in your space yet.
Coat number 2, I believe. Or 3. This may be 3.
Well, since I can't pay attention to where I'm at on the helmet, I'm on 1, 2, and 3, all at the same time.
Neat.
When it's wet, it feels like you're so much further along than you are. And it's dry, and you're like, oh. You said 10 coats?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep an eye on your gloves, but acetone will eat through them. I've already burned through my thumb.
So will sweat. So if you're in a heated room, that'll burn them out from the inside when you're not noticing. Bondo will burn from them too.
Yeah, but Bondo's usually from rubbing it on surface. part I'm most concerned with. Just going to do a couple of coats on the top, and we should probably give it an hour and pick back up.
Okay. Is that just so we can go watch TV?
No, it's so the Bondo has time to fully cure. So we
Okay.
stop activating it with the acetone.
That sounds like a good idea. Besides, I always walk 20 feet away from a project every 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this at least for half an hour.
Then do we have to, does that mean we have to walk 30 feet away?
Maybe. I'm not the BLEU. I was wondering if I could just mix enough of this and dip it, if it would work too.
Probably. That would be one hell of a dip.
Bondo on my glasses. Alright. That looks much better. We're not there yet, but we're closer. So it's had an hour. Everything is the time to do what everything it's going to do. So we're just going to keep going. Here you go.
My apologies for being a wuss.
No. Work however is comfortable to you.
Can I start mixing my stuff up?
Yep.
What I did notice on that last little speed run,
Yeah.
was the thicker one I had to pay attention to constantly because it was leaving drips that were solidifying as problems,
Yeah.
whereas the liquidy wasn't.
Liquid's just easy. And I do like the thicker for like the flat spots. Just so it's a nice even coat. Actually, it looks bad, but that's not. It looks worse than it is.
I will be more aware of the fact that if I'm not stirring it, I'm going to be changing consistencies without my permission. You know what this reminds me of? Well, when I was little, my mother would give me a bucket of water and a paintbrush and tell me to paint the sidewalk.
Thinking about doing a thick coat and then giving it overnight cure.
against my will, this last one's going to be a very thick coat because I forgot to continue stirring it.
Everything has had a full night to cure. Looks pretty good. Most layer lines seem to be gone. I'm going to give it a light sanding. I'm going to lightly sand everything, and then we'll probably do one more coat of, or a couple more coats of glazing putty and acetone. Everything has been sanded, but there's a couple areas, right? The upside down areas where all my support was, that's still a little rough. So I'm going to put a light coat of glazing putty on it and let it cure for a couple hours. You want to give it about 4 hours to make sure that the glazing putty has fully time to cure before you move on to the acetone. All right. So this bottom part was very light.
I hadn't turned it upside down for most of it, yeah.
So yeah, that's a thing to seriously keep in mind when you're doing stuff like this. You've also got, everywhere that's dark is a low spot. Because it's where the sandpaper can't reach. When a 3D print turns, like right here, you'll get a ringing, which is usually a little deeper. So when you're putting it on, make sure you rotate the thing whenever you're doing it. I have the same problem with mine. A lot of mine I didn't turn upside down. But it's not bad. So when we do our next round, make sure you rotate the whole thing.
Play with it a lot. Got it.
Exactly. The more you move it, the more you'll see. But actually, it's not bad. There's very little left. Let's put a couple coats. Everything's gonna blend.
And it's about exactly the equivalent of what we already did.
Yeah. But then it'll be done. And then it'll be neat. So you're not gonna get good in edges if you wrap it around an edge, because this is perfectly straight. If you lay it flat and sand, because when you sand by hand, you make divots. But if we wrap it and use it as a block, it'll make everything smooth. So when you sand, make sure you try. We're not going for color. We want everything to be smooth, so we need to make sure.
Yeah, not a problem. Will do.
Yeah.
The thicker consistency I had last night, so I'm stealing more.
Okay. These should only need one, maybe two. I'm very happy with how they're turning out.
I'm very happy with how I'm not going to have to sand all of those little mic bits and lights. Does this mean we have to get Justin Briner's autograph again?
Don't think so.
We're done with the acetone.
Yeah. So I have a divot here that I'm trying to fill in. If I try to fill it in, my finger is going to make weird waves. So they make these. It's just a silicone scraper. Since we've already primed it with the acetone and glazing putty, they should stick pretty okay. So since the divot is this way, I want to keep my card in an opposite direction. These are flexible, and that should absolutely have just filled in that whole area. All right, now we leave it, we let it dry. So we're on to primer. Everything's had a bunch of coats. I'm pretty happy with where these are at. I drilled a hole and fed in a screw so I can hang these to dry. On the helmets, I did the same thing in here. Since we've got these plugs that go in, they're going to be magneted in place. So it doesn't really matter what happens in these areas. So I drilled a hole, fed a screw, and they're going to hang to dry as well. But we're priming everything now. As far as this one's got a front, it's got eye holes, all kinds of places I can hook and hold. I could probably hook these right here, but you know, I like having a non-painted area. So sandable primer. I got all of my sandable primers out, and I'm just going to try and burn through as many as I can. helmets aren't painted. That's not the point of this video. The technique of acetone and glazing putty. And it did a spectacular job. It is perfect. There's no layer lines. I'm very, very happy with the Valkyrie helmets. Still a little bit of work on the Shinra helmet, but you know, it's not really my project. I'm not gonna rush her because it's her helmet, and I want her to be happy with it. These I'm happy with. The stands are fantastic too. They came out perfect. I love how all of this looks. Right? It's pretty neat. I have a video on this, by the way. Same with these little guys. Got a video on them too. Acetone and Glazing Putty. That's how I do it. People have asked. There you go. It's a super easy technique. It saves unbelievable amounts of time sanding. These have just been steel wooled at this point. They're ready for paint. I don't want to rush it, so I'm just going to take my time with that. I didn't go over any of the accessory pieces because this isn't really about finishing the helmets as much as it is about finishing the helmets. So thanks for making it to the end. I appreciate that. Maybe think about subscribing. Like, comment, share. You know, the usual. I'll see you next time.